Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Just thought I would pop in and talk to you about what's going on in the planets and the stars. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for January 3rd through 5th. So, Mars has made its triumphant progression into the sign of Sagittarius. This is a welcome release of energy after being deep in the mysterious energies of Scorpio since October with that intense Mercury retrograde. So Mars really likes being in Sagittarius, a fiery sign, and in Sagittarius, it's coming into a trine with Chiron. So for the last 6 weeks, I was looking back, and pretty much for the last 6 weeks straight, we have had the feeling of these planets one by one making a square with Chiron. Now, Chiron is a wounded healer. It's about deep, deep psychic wounds, soul wounds, particularly in Aries. It's about, is it okay for you to be who you really are and be whole and complete and exist on this planet? And so this is speaking to so many souls right now, trying to, first of all, realizing that they're not, that there might be in pieces, maybe that's part of this really intense Scorpio energy, is about recognizing and looking at our woundedness, recognizing what is in our subconscious that keeps creating these patterns we've been trying to get out of for so long. And it's not fun to look at it. But we're getting a little bit of a wider perspective. So Mars and Sagittarius has a fiery energy. Mars wants to go. Mars has will force and a really sweet trine with Chiron. So it's saying, hey, you guys, we can do this. Like, we can do this. We're not stuck at a crossroads. We're not it's kind of like there's this energy towards harmonious resolution of all of these psychic wounds that have been just like dredged up to the surface with this really intense Scorpio time. And yet we have Mercury, which, who took that retrograde in Scorpio. Now Mercury is in conjunction with Jupiter. So Mercury is just like, Mercury is our everyday reality. It's how we make sense of in our mind. And next to Jupiter, it's like making our thinking, just pulling our thinking way out beyond what we're comfortable with. And so Mars is in Sagittarius, pulling on that expansiveness, and then Mercury next to Jupiter. So we're being asked to step outside of ourselves, step outside of that narrow confine of who we have made ourselves to be in order to stay safe, in order to get along, in order to have people in our life, and it's like we've got to step outside of those narrow constructs and get a bigger picture. And then, and Mars in this fiery energy says, come on, let's do this. We can do this. Let's just go. Let's make something happen, right? But then we've got this crazy juxtaposition of energies because we're in this weird time in between eclipses. So next Friday, January 10th, is the partial lunar eclipse. And that is a super intense energy because we have Saturn and Pluto, they're just a couple of days away from their exact conjunction, coming into that same degree of 22 degrees, a master builder number. And so we are feeling it. That happens. They come together on the 7th. So just a few days away. And we're in this intense time. So it's just all these interesting energies because Mars and Sagittarius is like, hey, I came up from under the depths. Like, let's do this. But then the time in between eclipses is kind of like out of time. It's like, and especially this year with that powerful total solar eclipse on Christmas night, and the next day in the rest of the world, it's like it feels like all of these changes that we've been told are coming in our, in the time that we live in our planetary changes and pole shift and solar flash and all that stuff, right? I kind of the energy that's coming around this is that this has been going on. The event is ongoing. It's happening. right now. And we're in one of these really intense times where it's almost like our whole reality has been cut out of reality. And it's like over here while this intense change is going on. And it's kind of a culmination of feelings we've been feeling over these last few years, where it's like, I can feel that so much is happening on these other levels. So much is happening. And yet my life and my day to day and my outward life is just kind of suspended or stagnant, you know? So we're having like a huge culmination of this energy feeling where it's like the sense that there's massive changes happening energetically behind the scenes and in the backdrop of our big life. This is the Saturn Pluto energy coming together. And yet it's like daily life is just kind of mysteriously the same, you know? And we know that it's not going to stay that way, but this is part of this strange juxtaposition of energies that's going on right now. Maybe as we are shifting dimensional time frequencies, and we just kind of have to be in stasis for a little minute until we can adjust and be ready to step back into these new timelines kind of thing. So anyway, it's strange, and I'm not sure how to figure out. I think maybe by the end of January, the end of 2020, we'll have a better sense of what's going on. But right now, while it's happening, it's definitely difficult to get a handle on it. And that's confusing because Mercury is with Jupiter, and Mercury's like, come on, give me something to grab hold of in my, psyche so I can understand. And Jupiter's just like, blow that mind open, blow that mind into pieces, like expand beyond where you're comfortable in your mind. And maybe that's part of the role of a lot of the disclosure of truths that we know are coming in our world. And so Mercury, Jupiter now, Mercury is about to come. So Mercury and Jupiter is like, it's like, okay, well, we're trying to get a sense of what's happened to us since October. And a lot of souls feel like if they look back, it's like, even though there's this stagnancy, weird in between feeling right now, looking back to October, when Mercury started its retrograde energy, a lot of souls are feeling like a completely different person, right? And yet, how do we orient that in our life? And is that what's happening in our world? A completely different world, a completely different timeline. And yet, how do we kind of click back in to our reality? And how do we even know where to go from here? And so these are the questions that are coming up right now. And so right after Mercury makes this conjunction, it's right now with Jupiter, and then it's moving into a conjunction with the south node of the moon, and all the planets are taking their turn doing this in Capricorn as well. And so Mercury against the south node is going right back to October, to the very beginning of this journey. And of course, we know it started way, way, way before that, but this last little chapter. And so it's taking us back to this energy, and it's saying that we have to face everything from the past that is keeping us, so the south node of the moon is it's our past karma, like what's dragging on you from behind, what's pulling on you. And so the south node in Capricorn is a lot about, for all of us, it's about authority and our power, and where we've given our power away, how to take our power back. And it's not easy. It's a great idea. It's like, I'm going to take my power back. I realize now, a lot of humanity doesn't realize they gave their power away or that they had any in the first place, right? And that's where you souls come in as forerunners in this experience, and where you have spiritual power you've built over many lifetimes. But these control energies aren't going to just hand it back to you. Like, oh, you figured it out. Cool. Here you go. Right? It's like there is quite a journey and a process involved in this taking back of our power, and there will be obstacles and there will be resistance. And the closer you get to true freedom, the more you're going to feel in chains. And that's a big part of the energy, and more videos to come about this Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January, because it is intense and we're moving into it. But right now we're in this strange place. So Saturn and Pluto come together, together in that exact conjunction on the 7th, and then on the 10th, that partial lunar eclipse. Now, Uranus turns direct on the day of that partial lunar eclipse, and that's telling us, yeah, we are moving forward into this new age. There's nothing that can stop it from happening, right? And so what we're being asked to do in this strange juxtaposition of energies, Mars and Sagittarius wanting to rise up and fly and see the bigger picture and get on with it. And then we're kind of been cut out of reality and we're floating around in some unknown, who knows what's happening. And then Mercury facing up with that south node. It's just like we've got to face the truth in order to move beyond these stories of the past. And it's not fun, it's not easy, but this is the deal with 2020, with January 2020 in particular. It's intense. It's like a squeezing. It's like all of the karmic stuff you've ever dealt with at one time. And yet it's incredibly empowering. So we need to sit tight and be present and understand it's temporary, but it's epic. And it's the most epic and powerful astrology of our lifetimes, potentially. So why not be present with it and see where it can take us if we can face these things, if we can be in the moment, if we can claim our own timeline rather than being manipulated and thrown around by energies outside of ourselves. So it's a crazy time and intense, and I'm so glad we're here together, and I look forward to seeing you on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.